Hi guys, James again, back with another video. And I decided after the great reaction to the top 10 erotic thrillers / dramas list I did, I would do a part 2, and I wasn't sure I'd have enough to make a second part, but it turns out that I had more than enough, and like the time travel part 2 video, I think with the exception of a few on the erotic thriller drama part 1, I think this overall might be a better list than that one even. And so again, I still find all of these to be great movies. Yeah, they do involve a lot of sex and stuff, and they're not exactly high art, but I still like all the movies on this list, which is why I'm including them. Not just because, ooh, they're erotic thrillers or whatever. I also can find the good movie inside. And so, as I usually say, that spoiling a twist of a movie, if that ruins the movie, they made a good twist, not a good movie. That being said, I am going to spoil most of these movies, so spoiler alert. Only because I think they have a lot of great twists, but again, it's not something that's going to upset you a great deal, I don't think, just because it's not why most people are watching these movies, but some of them do have pretty creative twists. So, you've been warned. Number 10, we'll start with a film from 1991 called Zandalee. And this is one of the earlier films from Nicolas Cage. You've got Nicolas Cage, Judge Reinhold, and Erica Anderson as the three primaries of the movie. And this one was, you've sort of got Zandalee Martin, that's Erica Anderson, and she's married to Judge Reinhold, who is Thierry. And he reunites with an old high school friend of his, played by Nicolas Cage, and his name is Johnny. Now he's an artist and stuff, and essentially in the film, the friends get back together. The one friend has a beautiful wife, so naturally the wild and crazy friend is going to hook up with the beautiful wife and cause some scandalous affair, which does happen. And the twist in this movie is when the husband, played by Judge Reinhold, finds out, he's so distraught that he jumps off the boat that they're on. They go on a boating trip, and they try and save him. And he actually, you see him, he leans up and he like bites Nicolas Cage's neck just to get him to let him go, because he wants to drown. He's not going to let him save him. And then, so they're free to be together, Nicolas Cage and Erica Anderson, and then she gets gunned down well, there's a drug dealer coming after Nicolas Cage's character, and he fires at him. Zandalee jumps in front, she gets shot, and he's left with, I think the final scene is him carrying her lifeless body down the street and stuff. As I said, not high art, some great love scenes in the movie, but it is an interesting early movie to see from Nicolas Cage and Judge Reinhold and Erica Anderson, who don't see a whole lot of outside of this, and I think it's Nightmare on Elm Street 4, I believe. Might be 5. Anyway, so that was Zandalee. Number 9, we have a film from 2013 called In Secret. Now this one I just happened to find in a store, and I had never heard of it, and I was surprised because this one stars Elizabeth Olsen, Jessica Lange, Tom Felton, Draco Malfoy from the Harry Potter movies, and Oscar Isaac. So it's got a great cast. And essentially you have Elizabeth Olsen, who's married to her cousin, played by Tom Felton, who's a bit of, it's not crippled, well, he's sort of crippled, but he has some illness, so he's not very well off. And she meets Oscar Isaac's character, and they fall in love and begin an illicit affair behind Tom Felton's back, and also Jessica Lange, who is her, I think she is her, let's see, Elizabeth Olsen plays Therese Raquin, and Jessica Lange is Madame Raquin. It's her mother. No, it's Tom Felton's mother and Elizabeth Olsen's aunt in the movie. And it's one of those two people start an affair and then conspire to murder the husband and incapacitate the mother so that they can be together and have everything and all the money and stuff like that. And it's essentially how it begins to play out. And this one doesn't have a very happy or uplifting ending. It doesn't end well really for anyone. Sort of ends in a double suicide kind of thing. But it is a pretty gorgeous looking movie because it's a period piece that takes place in the 1860s in Paris. So it is a good movie, and I was surprised again by not having heard of it with the impressive cast it has. So that was In Secret. Number 8, we have a film from 2005 called Shadowboxer. And this one is one of the ones directed by Lee Daniels, who did like The Butler. Let's see, he's most well known for The Butler. I think he was one of the producers on Monsters Ball and stuff. And this is sort of like a hitman, hitwoman movie. And it stars, you've got Cuba Gooding Jr., Helen Mirren, Monique, Stephen Dorff, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in there, Vanessa Ferlito, Macy Gray, and another one that's I don't think hardly anyone I know is aware of this movie. You've got Helen Mirren and Cuba Gooding Jr. as assassins working together, and Cuba Gooding Jr. plays Helen Mirren's stepson, but also her lover. So they have kind of like a weird thing going on. And Stephen Dorff is like a crime drug kingpin, and he is convinced that his wife is cheating on him. So he hires Helen Mirren and Cuba Gooding Jr. to kill her. Well, when they show up, she goes into labor because she's pregnant with Stephen Dorff's baby, and starts to go into labor, and they decide to deliver the baby, save her and the baby, and get them out of there. Well, and that causes Stephen Dorff to go after them. Now, Helen Mirren's character is also dying of cancer, so she doesn't have long to live anyway. But it's a great dynamic between the two assassins, and also Stephen Dorff, who always does a good job, but he also plays a great villain, especially if you look in like Cold Creek Manor or Blade and stuff. So that is Shadowboxer. This one also has some pretty explicit scenes in there. For those of you that only look for that, but let's see. Okay. Number 7, we have a film from 2012 called Kiss of the Damned. And this is a film by Alexandra Zan Cassavetes. And she is the daughter of John Cassavetes. So she made this film, and it's essentially a vampire film. You've got Milo Ventimiglia, who is a writer. He plays Paolo. He's a writer, and he becomes infatuated, falls in love with Josephine de la Beaume, who plays Juna. I think it's Djuna, and she is a vampire. And he quickly discovers this and falls in love with her, and doesn't know what she is. She ends up revealing that she's a vampire, and she proves it to him, and then makes him a vampire too, so they become a vampire couple. Well, problems arise when her younger, also vampire sister, younger out-of-control sister, shows up and starts wreaking havoc. well, that's putting everything in jeopardy. So that's quickly going to be put to rest. And I thought this was a very different role for Milo Ventimiglia. And first movie I'd seen from Zan Cassavetes. I'm not sure what else she's done, but I saw the back and I'm like, I like the cast. It's like Cassavetes. Well, see what kind of filmmaking skills she inherited from her dad. So, Kiss of the Damned. Number 6, we have a film from 1994 called Blink. And this one I watched several times in the 90s when I rented it. And this one stars Aidan Quinn and Madeline Stowe. You also have James Remar, Laurie Metcalf. Essentially, those are the primary actors that you'd recognize. Well, Madeline Stowe plays Emma, and she is someone who's been blind most of her life. Well, she undergoes a radical new surgery to restore her eyesight, but it causes, she's still suffering from some affliction, and she sees flashes and hallucinations. So she's not sure exactly what if what she's seen is real. And one night she witnesses there's a murder that happens in her apartment complex, and she sees the killer, or thinks she does. Well, her eyesight is still slowly coming back to her, so it's not always functioning properly. And so she's, half the time she's blind, and she has a murderer coming after her. Well, you have Aidan Quinn playing a detective who's investigating the murders. I believe it's a serial killer. Investigating the murders and also trying to protect her because she's a potential witness, or is a witness, and is kind of defenseless with her vision not quite coming back yet. And so they get involved, and he's trying to protect her, but they also get involved romantically and stuff. So I think it was in the time when Madeline Stowe did Bad Girls and what was it? Unlawful Entry with Kurt Russell and Ray Liotta and stuff. But it was a good tense thriller. So that was Blink. Number 5, we have a film from 2000 called Dancing at the Blue Iguana. Now this one of the movies pretty much all about strippers. I was going to do a list of top 10 stripper movies, but I wasn't that interested in finishing it. And this one, it all involves strippers at the strip club called the Blue Iguana. And I read that the story in the movie sprung out of this improvisational workshop that they did. So a lot of the movie, I guess, was spontaneously, grew out of that spontaneously. And so you have several well-known actresses in here. You got Sandra Oh, Charlotte Ayana, Kristen Bauer, Daryl Hannah, and you've also got W. Earl Brown, Elias Koteas, Vladimir Mashkov, who I've seen in a few films. He's a Russian actor. And you got Jennifer Tilly in there, Robert Wisdom. And a lot of it is just like the various things going on in each of the strippers' lives. But one that always stuck out to me was Daryl Hannah's character. She plays Angel, and this Russian gangster, Vladimir Mashkov, who plays Sasha, comes into the club frequently and takes a liking to her, but she also takes a liking to him. And he's got a lot of dangerous stuff going on in his life. So he leads a dangerous life. And I was always struck by this one scene where they have she gives him a private dance, and she's dancing to, and this was the first time I'd ever heard this song. It was River of Tears by Eric Clapton, my favorite Eric Clapton song, but I'd never heard it before, and it always sticks out in my mind because it came from this movie, for me at least. So it is a good movie for it being a movie just about strippers or exotic dancers. I liked it quite a bit. I've only been able to find it on VHS. I'm hoping to find the DVD or Blu-ray someday. So, Dancing at the Blue Iguana. Number 4, we have a film from 1995 called Jade. Some of these films are done by well-known directors, and maybe back in the 90s or early 2000s they may have been well-known, but I think they've been kind of left by the wayside for most, not by me. This is a film by William Friedkin, and it stars David Caruso, and it was one of the first projects he did after leaving NYPD Blue. And he plays a cop who's investigating the murder of a very rich guy. And when they're examining the scene, they discover a safe with tapes of a bunch of sex tapes in there with a bunch of women on. And they ended up interviewing one of them, played by Angie Everhart, and she talks about he paid us to have sex with him, but his favorite was all this woman named Jade, mysterious woman. And you've also got Linda Ferrantino in the movie as the wife of a district attorney played by Chaz Palminteri. And she, as I said, I'm spoiling some of these movies, and she ends up being on one of these tapes that they discover. And she also was leading a secret life as Jade, like the favorite hooker, I guess, or private sex person for this rich guy. And her husband, the district attorney, Chaz Palminteri, finds out and flips out and stuff. And as it turns out, you find out at the end, he was the one who killed him because he discovered his wife was sleeping with him for money on tape. And David Caruso had a previous romantic relationship with Linda Ferrantino, but Chaz Palminteri is also his best friend. And at the very end of the movie, he confesses to her, Chaz Palminteri confesses to his wife that he's the one who killed the guy, and he wants her, the next time they have sex, he wants her to introduce him to Jade. And the interesting thing is, you find out that early on in the movie, when David Caruso is investigating the scene, that he finds an anchor-shaped cufflink, and he sends one of his colleagues, don't log this into evidence until I tell you. And at the end of the movie, you see Chaz Palminteri putting on his cufflinks, and he's missing one, and it's an anchor. And it's okay, so David Caruso knew the entire time that his best friend, the district attorney, was at the scene and didn't say anything and still pursued a bunch of stuff. It always struck me as odd. And I managed to get a hold of the director's cut on VHS. Out of print, can't find it anywhere, and this movie's barely on DVD or Blu-ray. I haven't seen it anywhere. And the director's cut has extra scenes in there, but there's also a scene at the end after he says, "Next time we make love, introduce me to Jade." Movie ends. Well, in the director's cut, all of a sudden it zooms out to outside on the street, and Dave Caruso's there with one of the directional microphone cameras or something like that, directional mics, and he's recording the whole thing. He basically turns it off and he goes towards the house because he's going to arrest him. So I guess he had that solid proof. Also has a great car chase in there, as William Friedkin is great at doing. So I always thought it was a great movie. Not well regarded, but it is by me. Jade. Alright, number 3, we have a film from 1993 called Dream Lover. And this one stars I used to call her Mad Kanamic, but I think it's Machen Amik. Actress from Twin Peaks and stuff. Also stars James Spader and Frederick Lane, Larry Miller, Kathleen York. And it's essentially James Spader he plays Ray, and he meets, what's her name? She plays Lena Mathers. He's Ray Reardon, she's Lena Mathers Reardon. They meet, fall in love, get married, have a kid, have more than one kid. But he keeps meeting people, and discovering things about her past that she may not be who she claims to have been all this time. And one thing leads to another, and he discovers her secret, and she taunts him into attacking her, and she has him declared mentally incompetent and committed to an asylum. Well, he has a plan in mind, and has some kind of birthday party at the asylum or whatever, and she comes there and taunts him, saying blah blah blah, it's all true, your kids aren't yours, and I did this and I did this and I did this, and he basically attacks her, begins to strangle her, and saying like, you know what, they already think I'm crazy, so they're not gonna do squat to me if I kill you, and he kills her. So it has a very, very dismal ending, but I thought it was a very, very twisty kind of movie thriller. And yeah, some great scenes in there too. James Spader, who always does a great job. Dream Lover. Number 2, we have a film from 2003 called Dot the I. And this one has a good cast, because you've got Gael Garcia Bernal, Natalie Verbeek, James Darcy, Tom Hardy, Charlie Cox, early movie from Tom Hardy. I think it's the first movie from Charlie Cox, from Daredevil. And essentially, James Darcy meets Natalie Verbeek, they fall in love, get married, and then Gael Garcia Bernal enters the picture and falls in love with her, and they begin an affair, and one thing leads to another, and James Darcy reveals towards the end that he's been filming all these events the entire time, and he actually hired Gael Garcia Bernal to meet and seduce her, but James Darcy also arranged for them to meet, and like they actually got married just so he could solidify his plan, that everything was orchestrated just for him to make a movie about all of this. And she ends up getting her revenge on him at the movie's premiere. Well, towards the movie's premiere, she ends up killing him, framing it on Tom Hardy and Charlie Cox, his two friends, and sending them to jail. And you see at the end Gael Garcia Bernal and Natalie Verbeek going to the premiere together. There's some great scenes in there, great sex scenes and stuff, but just the way, I'd never seen James Darcy play a villain before, and he just does an outstanding job. And the way all the events, I'm glossing over, the way that all the events unfold, I thought was pretty impressive. That was Dot the I. Number 1, from 2002, another film by a famous director, which I think doesn't get talked about enough, and this is called Unfaithful. And this one stars Richard Gere, Diane Lane. Like, they made a big thing about them reuniting when they did Nights in Rodanthe, the movie based on the Nicholas Sparks novel, because they had been together in this movie. And Olivia Martinez is in there, Eric Purse Sullivan, Chad Lowe, Dominic Chianese, Michelle Monaghan, Zelko Ivanek, Michael Emerson. Got a great cast in there. And essentially, Diane Lane and Richard Gere are married with children, very happy. And Diane Lane meets this mysterious younger man, played by Olivia Martinez, an artist, and they begin to have an illicit affair. And pretty early on in the movie, Richard Gere discovers the affair is going on, and accidentally, he means to hurt him, but he ends up killing him and covering up the murder, and then revealing these events to Diane Lane, his wife. And there's a very famous quote that I've heard in like a Kill Whitney Dead song, but in the movie itself, he's just like, "You took everything from me. I gave you everything, and you threw it away, and you threw our whole marriage away." And he's getting very angry and yelling at him. He's like, "I didn't want to kill him. I wanted to kill you." And they have to find a way to get past it. And at the end of the movie, you see them driving with the kids sleeping in the back, and they're driving, talking, basically coming to terms with everything and sort of reconciling with each other. And you see them stop in the middle of the street at these lights near some buildings, and basically saying like, can we survive this? Should we start over or whatever? And then the movie ends. In the extended ending that's in the deleted scenes, they're in the same, that stops there in the car, they're talking, whatever, and instead of it cutting to black, he gets out and walks into the police station. I guess it's like he's made peace with his wife and he's going to go confess to killing the young lover. I think it's a beautiful movie, beautifully shot, beautifully acted, and so well done. I just don't think it gets talked about enough. Anyway, that was Unfaithful, and that is my list. Thank you for watching. Thank you for giving so much attention to the other list, and I hope you like this one just as much or even more. Like, comment, subscribe. Suggestions are welcome, and I will see you next time, and toodles.